And as we were saying, those years on Hancock were formidable years, so to speak. Like I said, we had outhouse for a toilet. Then my granddaddy got a washing machine. You know, that was an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
The washing machine was not like the ones we have today, but it actually had the wringer, where you wring the clothes out after they washed in the washer. So you know, that was, young people need to see these kinds of things. And we had chickens that ran around the backyard.
Okay.
In fact, we even watched them. My aunt would kill the chicken,
Mm-hmm.
you know, catch one, kill it, and we'd watch it flutter and die, and they'd put it in the big black wash pot and moped all the feathers off, pluck it, and Fred was what we were eating that night. But you know, you actually saw, you know, you got me. My grandfather, in addition to working at UGA, raised pigs.
That's what I'm about to say. They have other animals?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, well, he raised pigs, but they weren't there.
Okay.
Over there, they were out actually off the Uxbridge Road,
Okay.
where actually when you right before you cross the county line.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Robert Lee Daniel has a house there, but you'd go in there. And,
I know where that is.
And he had a big hog pen, and we would go around helping my grandfather pick up slop
Okay.
from different schools.
Uh-huh.
See, today all of that is thrown in the trash. They're not allowed, you know, they're not allowed to have that new law.
Mm-hmm.
But he would actually go pick up from Clark Central, Barrow, and a couple other schools, Alps Road, and then we would take it out to the area where the hogs were, and then cook it.
Okay.
And then he would go to the health department and get some kind of medicine that he would put into that as he cooked it to kill all the germs and bacteria. And then we would feed hogs.
Okay.
And then in the fall of the year, he'd kill a couple of hogs, and all the different places that we'd go around picking up slop, he would actually share what happened after it was processed.
Okay.
So people got tenderloin and ham and sausage and all that, but he shared it with everybody that he had gotten slop from.
Okay. I interviewed a couple more folks, and surprisingly, they all had chickens, so they all had pig, and a couple of them had cows, had at least one cow.
Now, we didn't have any cows.
But you had pigs.
You know, we had the pigs, we had
Okay.
the chickens, and like I say, that was a really, you know, something that growing up. My grandfather was a very unique person. You know, I think part of why I think I can do a little bit of everything is
Okay.
because of him.
Mm-hmm.
He, you know, he could, a person that had a 7th, 8th grade education, but he read everything. He read a lot, and I would watch him. We would be up at night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, on the weekends, helping him put transmission together.
Really?
He'd tear down 2 or 3 transmissions, put it together, make one, put it back in the car that he was working on, and then drive it down the street, and we'd be out there pushing it down the street sometimes, or pushing it back up the hill when it wouldn't crank back up.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, he had that kind of skill that he just used a little bit of what he had,
Mm-hmm.
and he told you if it was an inanimate thing, it couldn't beat you.
Okay.
And so he you know, so I've kind of feel that same kind of way about things.
So what was your grandfather's name?
His name was Rufus Sims.
Okay. Okay.
And
And your grandmom's name?
Alma Sims.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me some more about them, about her.
Well, like I said, my grandfather they came from Oglethorpe County. My grandfather worked at the university. Like I said, he had 9 living children. I think they had 17 in all,
Mm-hmm.
but 9 that lived. Now we're down to 2. My mother and her sister
Okay. Okay.
that are still living now.
Mm-hmm.
He lived to be 94 years old.
Okay.
My grandmother lived, you know, into her 70s. They were married for 57 years.
Wow. Okay.
And she never worked a day in her life other than raise children.
Mm-hmm. That was work.
That was work, especially children and grandchildren,
Yes.
because they wasn't just, you know, just
Yeah.
children.
Uh-huh.
A wonderful cook. She would make biscuits. That's how I learned how to make biscuits, was watching my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to do a little cooking myself,
Okay.
but she could cook. You know, you just sit there and you'd watch, and she'd sit there on her stool
Mm-hmm.
and make up the dough and knead it, and then she would cut the, you know, they say cut those biscuits out by hand.
Mm-hmm.
I had to use a biscuit cutter,
Mm-hmm.
but she was a very good cook, and she took care of children and grandchildren.
Okay. Describe that house on Hancock.
House of Hancock, see, it was, like I say, one of the greatest built house, but it was, I mean, sometimes there might be 8 to 12 of us living in that house. It had, because my mother's youngest sister stayed there, and when my mother's, one of her older sisters moved back from Connecticut, she went to school up in Connecticut to be a chef. She came back here and worked. In fact, she retired from working with Liette.
Okay.
And so she and her daughter stayed there, and then by then my mom had married my stepfather, and we were on the east side of town. But we'd come over on the weekends to stay, because mom and dad got up and went to work part of the day on Saturday.
Okay.
And then plus my mother's youngest sister, who was still alive, had 5 children. And they all stayed there. So like I said, we had a house full of folks.
Okay.
But we had a fish pond out in the front.
You had a fish pond in the front?
Yeah, and they had beautiful fish.
Really?
They weren't like, I mean, well, I guess you would think, kind of like the Japanese type fish. But we had koi, yeah, they were really, I mean, it's really nice.
Okay.
We had a lot of fun.
Okay.
Like I said, we had a little storage house that just sat there, and we'd ramble through it every so often. And we lived across the street from a person that sold alcohol illegally, and we'd watch him hide it sometimes, and we'd be mischievous, and we'd go unhide it for him.
Really.
And so, but it was really a interesting time.
Okay. What did you use for heat?
We had space heaters in each room except for in my grandmother's room. My grandmother did not like gas. She said that stuff will blow up.
Okay.
So she had a wood burning stove.
Okay.
So every night you had to cut up kindling, just small pieces of wood, and so that you could help start the fire. And you had to do that. It didn't make any difference what time of day or night it was. If you didn't do it that night, you were gonna get up early that morning to get that wood so that it would have that. But you generally did that the night before. Got it ready. You'd have it stacked up under. We had a little place under that was under the house that you could keep it, so if it rained, it didn't get wet or anything. But that was what she'd do. She'd have that, and then of course they bought coal. Okay. And they would have coal that would need to be used, and then you didn't have to always make the fire every morning. They would do a thing called banking, banking the coals, and what you would do is just basically at the end of the evening when you get ready to go to bed, you take all those coals and just stack them up against the inside of the stove.
Okay.
And the embers would stay lit, and then the next morning all you had to do is spread the embers back out, put a little fire, a little kindling on there, and you start the process all over again.
Okay. Did she cook with a wood stove? Or?
No, she cooked with that electric stuff. That electric stuff.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Cause like I say, she didn't like gas. She was. If you touch those things, they'll blow up.
And tell me about your other neighbors and the other kids and the type of games you played.
Oh, neighbors, we had, let's say, behind Mr. Herring's store, that was his name of the store that we went to, that was right next door, there were the Linstons. There were 2 young ladies that grew up there, and then one still lives here in Athens, the other lives out of state. And then right below them were the Bells. Joe Bell and his family, and then a little further down the street, down Rock Spring, was Sandra Strange, and right below them was Mr. A.G. Williams' family, and right around the corner from them was Richard Cornelius. So we had a lot of folk, and then we were over on Plaza in Glen Haven, and down the street in public housing, we had a lot of friends there too. So we grew up.
And what kind of games did you play?
We played. We played Cowboys and Indians and all those kind of things. And we take a stick and just break a limb off the tree, and that was our horse. We put a string on it and we'd ride it. And when Zorro came out, we were the masked people, and so it was. We had fun, but we invented games too. And we played hopscotch and marbles and. that was a big one. And you're
Okay.
always trying to see how many marbles could you collect.
Okay. So by the time you started school, you had moved to the.
Well, actually, when I started school, I was still living on Hancock.
Okay.
When I
Okay.
started, in fact, we fifth grade, well, 5 years old, went to Miss Maddie Eberhardt's kindergarten,
Okay.
and that started. There was a private school
Mm-hmm.
for kindergarten, private kindergarten.
Okay.
So we went to.
Where was it?
It was on Chase Street.
Chase. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had she lived right next to it, had a little schoolhouse right next to where she lived.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first 2 years were at West Broad.
So you went to West
I
Broad
went
for
to West
2
Broad
years.
For 2 years, yeah,
Okay.
first grade and second grade. First grade teacher was Mrs. Well, her name at that time was Ellington, but we know her as Mrs. Burton.
Okay.
She lived right on Greece Street.
Okay.
No, excuse me, on Bill Street. She stayed on North Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
And she stayed there until basically she passed away. And she was almost 100 years old when she died.
Okay.
And then Miss Roberts, who lived on Plaza, was my second grade teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually did live to be 100 years old before she passed away.
Really? Who was the principal when you?
The principal at that time was Miss Freeman.
Miss Freeman. Okay.
Miss Freeman was the principal.
Okay.
Now, we talked about the house,
Right.
She lived on Rock Street.
Right. Tell me everything you can remember about West Broad Street School as a first and second
West Broad
grade.
Street School was more of a single area. We didn't have when we first went there. We didn't have a cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
They would bring food over, and then you ate from there.
Okay.
And in fact, I think they built the cafeteria right after I left and moved to the other side of town.
Okay.
But and an addition that they added on as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in the older part of the building.
Okay. And did it have 2 stories?
No, it was a single story, and
Okay.
they would have. It was interesting. They had hardwood floors,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had what they call sweeping compound.
Okay.
And they
Okay.
would throw it on the floor, and then the janitors would sweep it down every
Mhm.
day. And it was interesting. They talk about recycling. Well, that's what they did with that. Basically, they would sweep it down, take out all the paper and trash that was in it.
And
The
then-
next day, it was back down, and they would sweep and clean it. And it had some kind of oil in it that kept the floors neat and very. And they kept the place up very well.
Okay. And what about heat? What?
Heat
Was it
was.
electric?
I think we were. I'm not sure about the heat. There.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking there was a heater, a furnace, and I think we had a heater, and then it went to a furnace.
Okay. Okay.
But that's been, like I say, trying to tax my memory now.
In a little while. Yeah. You was young too. I mean, and then from there, you moved to the east
I
side.
moved to East Side.
Okay. Where on the east side did you move to?
I moved to 165 Fairview Street.
Fairview.
Yeah.
And you say your mom got married.
My mom married stepdad.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you tell me your mom's name?
Jeanette Howell.
Okay.
Sims Howell now.
Okay.
And they just celebrated yesterday their 57th wedding anniversary.
Tell me about them.
Oh, okay.
Your parents.
My parents. Well, let's say.
Yeah.
That's who I was raised by.
Mm-hmm.
We lived like on Fairview Street, and our backyard extended up to McKinley Drive, where they currently live. They actually, the lot went from one street to the next street.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, in that back part of it, before they built the home that they live in now on McKinley Drive, was our playground.
Okay.
And our house was the gathering house, so to speak. Everybody met there because we all played football, basketball, everything was played pretty much in the yard.
Okay.
Mom had control. Anybody that didn't do like they're supposed to, you pack up and go home. She sent them home. And it was interesting. You couldn't be late for school because school was basically in the backyard.
Okay.
Because East Athens School was right behind,
there.
was actually on McKinley Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal at that school was Miss Jessie McCorder.
Okay.
Her husband owned Jackson, McCorder Funeral Home, which is now Jackson McCorder Funeral
Right.
Home. And ironically, Miss McCorder's sister-in-law was Miss Raymond.
Okay.
And so it's interesting to go from one family member to the next family member to be taken care of, so to
Right.
speak.
Right. Yeah. Tell me about that house.
It was we had 2 bedroom, 1 bath, kitchen, living room.
Okay.
A little small house that
Mm-hmm.
still exists today.
It's still there. Okay.
Still there.
Mhm.
It's owned by someone else now, but
Okay.
we grew up there, and
A lot of kids in the neighborhood.
a lot of kids.
Same type of games you played on the
You know,
other side.
football. We had one we called tie tackle. This is one
Tie
that
tackle.
tie. You just put a tie. You know, automobile.
Right
tires.
here. Uh-huh.
And because the way the yard was, it's set up on it goes up a hill,
Mhm.
and you would take automobile tires and you would roll them down the hill, and then guys would sit on the side and try to hit the tires as they came across. And you know that
With
you
a
know,
BB gun?
no with a tire, another
Oh,
tire.
with another
You
tire.
got another
Okay.
tire. You got another tire.
Okay.
You're sitting there
Okay.
waiting on it to come down the hill and then
Huh.
see if you could take that tire out before it hit the street.
Uh-huh.
Because it was gonna be in the street if you didn't. And then of course we'll have somebody that was crazy enough down there to try to stop all the tires that be coming down the hill.
Mhm.
So we did that a lot. And then my mom called us one day and she told us stop playing that game because it would bump up against our gas meter. And said, when are you gonna blow the house up by doing this? And so she told us to stop doing that. And said, yes, ma'am. And of course we went on and did it anyway. And so she got home early one day and called